You were not born with fixed limits. You were born with a system inside you, a biological system designed to adapt, grow, and evolve. The question isn't whether you have potential. The question is whether you understand how to access it. Potential is not an idea. It's a biological fact. Your brain, your nervous system, they are plastic, meaning they can change. They can rewire. But here's the truth. They don't change by accident. They change through focus, through repetition, through intention. When you wake up and decide to pursue a goal, your brain begins to shape itself around that pursuit. But you must be deliberate. Vision, quite literally, is the gateway to your internal drive. When you narrow your visual focus on something, when your eyes lock in, your mind engages. This simple act tells your brain this matters. And when something matters, energy follows. But motivation isn't magic, it's biology. Your body runs in cycles, waves of alertness and fatigue. Peak performance isn't about grinding endlessly, it's about timing. You have windows, 90-minute cycles, where your brain is sharp, focused, ready. That's when you push. And when the wave drops, you rest. Because true power comes not just from effort, but from recovery. You want to grow. Then stress is not your enemy. It's your training ground. When you place yourself in controlled discomfort, a hard workout, a deep study session, a stretch beyond your comfort zone, your nervous system learns. It adapts, but only if you let it rest afterward. Stress plus rest to growth, and the fuel behind all of it, dopamine. But not from likes, trophies, or applause. That dopamine has no staying power. The dopamine that unlocks your potential comes from effort, from loving the process, from seeing challenge as the reward. Train your mind to crave the work, not just the win. That's when you become dangerous. That's when potential stops being a possibility and starts becoming reality. You have everything you need inside your body, inside your brain, to become more. But it starts with understanding the system, working with it, respecting it. Potential is not found, it's earned day by day, cycle by cycle, focus by focus. And it's waiting for you. Your brain is not a fixed machine. It is not a static organ that simply stores memories and controls the body. Instead, it is an incredibly adaptive system, capable of change, growth, and transformation at any stage of life. This ability of the brain to change its structure and function in response to experience, effort, learning, and focus is known as neuroplasticity. And when you understand how to engage with this process deliberately, you unlock one of the most powerful forces available to human potential. Neuroplasticity isn't just for children. While it's true that the brain is most malleable in early development, modern neuroscience has proven that adults can still reshape their brains through intentional behavior and mental effort. The key lies in understanding the conditions that activate this plasticity. Change doesn't happen simply because you want it. It happens when your brain is placed in a state of focused engagement, when you challenge it, struggle through discomfort, and repeat new patterns with intensity and consistency. In those moments, the nervous system signals to itself that something important is happening. That signal begins the rewiring process. So how does this work in practical terms? It begins with attention. Your brain doesn't change based on what happens around you. It changes based on what you focus on. If you're learning a new skill, whether it's public speaking, coding, physical training, or emotional regulation, your brain begins to carve out new neural pathways based on where you direct your energy. Every time you engage with that activity, deeply, intentionally, and without distraction, you send a message to your nervous system this matters. And when something matters to the brain, it begins the process of structural change. But here's the deeper truth. Change often starts with struggle. When you're learning something new and it feels uncomfortable, that's not failure. That's plasticity. The brain responds most powerfully when you are outside your comfort zone, when the task is difficult enough to require effort, but not so overwhelming that you shut down. This is called the plasticity sweet spot. It's where growth lives. When you push yourself just beyond what you can currently do and stay there, repeating the task, engaging fully, your brain starts pruning old pathways that no longer serve you and strengthening the new ones that do. Effort is not just a motivational concept, it is a biological signal. The brain detects when something is effortful, and that's when it releases chemicals like acetylcholine and norepinephrine, which enhance focus and promote change. These chemicals act like spotlight beams and adhesive. They illuminate the task at hand and help the brain glue the new experience into its circuitry. In other words, if you want to access your potential, you must learn to lean into the effort, not avoid it, not fear it, but recognize it as the beginning of transformation. Repetition is equally critical. Neuroplasticity does not work through one-off experiences. You cannot change who you are by doing something once. Change is cumulative. Every repetition of a new behavior, a new mindset, or a new response reinforces the new pathway. It's like carving a trail through a forest. The more you walk it, the clearer it becomes. At first, you'll feel resistance. The brain is efficient. It wants to revert to what's easy, what's familiar. But with repeated effort and sustained focus, those new circuits get stronger. What once felt difficult becomes automatic. That's the power of consistency combined with neuroplasticity. But here's something equally important. Neuroplasticity is not just about building new skills. It's about identity. Who you are is not locked in. Your habits, your emotional patterns, your beliefs, they're all encoded in circuits. And circuits can change. If you see yourself as someone who's not disciplined, not focused, or not confident, that's not a permanent fact. It's a learned pattern. And what is learned can be unlearned. You can create a new identity by deliberately practicing new behaviors. By showing up every day, acting like the version of yourself you want to become, you teach your brain a new story. Eventually, that story becomes your reality. Accessing your potential is not about waiting for motivation. It's about training your system. The more you train yourself to enter focus states, the more natural it becomes. You begin to shift from reactive to intentional, from passive to powerful. Your brain stops being a source of limitation and starts becoming your greatest ally. But this doesn't happen by chance. It happens through design, by crafting your days to include deliberate practice, deep focus, and structured rest. And yes, rest matters too. Neuroplasticity is triggered by effort, but it is consolidated during rest. After a period of deep learning or challenge, your brain continues to rewire itself in the background. This is why sleep is crucial. During sleep, especially deep sleep, the brain strengthens the circuits you used that day and prunes away the ones you ignored. If you are training hard but sleeping poorly, you are stalling your growth. Recovery is not a luxury, it's a requirement. It's during those periods of rest that your potential truly takes form. The beauty of this science is that it gives you agency. You are not stuck. You are not broken. You are not doomed by your past. You are adaptable. You are moldable. And every single day, you have the chance to reshape the person you are into the person you could become. But you must be deliberate. You must show up. You must engage with effort, focus, and repetition. That's the formula. That's how transformation works. So the next time you face a challenge and feel uncomfortable, remember this: you are in the zone where growth begins. Your nervous system is listening. Give it a reason to change. Focus. Struggle. Repeat. Rest. And over time, watch how you evolve. Your brain is the gateway, and neuroplasticity is the key. Unlock it intentionally, and you'll discover that your potential is not something you have to find. It's something you build. The way you use your eyes shapes the way your brain functions. This is not a metaphor. It's a scientific fact. Vision is the most dominant of all your senses. It doesn't just allow you to see the external world, it directly influences your internal world. Where you look, what you focus on, and how you direct your visual attention has a profound effect on your energy, your motivation, your emotional state, and ultimately your performance. If you want to access your full potential, you must learn to use your vision as a tool, not just to observe the world, but to command your mind. When you narrow your focus, when you deliberately direct your gaze at a specific point, a target, or a task, you activate a system in your brain that controls alertness and readiness. This process engages the autonomic nervous system, particularly the sympathetic branch, which increases your level of internal activation. In other words, when you focus your eyes, you're not just seeing something, you're preparing your entire body to take action. This is why focus isn't just mental, it's physical. Your body gets ready to move, to respond, to pursue, because your visual system told it that something important is happening. Think about animals in nature. When a lion zeroes in on its prey, its pupils constrict, its eyes lock forward, and its entire system prepares to strike. Humans are no different. We may not be hunting prey, but when we lock our gaze on a goal, our brain interprets it the same way. Focus tells the brain, this is important, pay attention. Allocate resources here, that's the beginning of performance. And this is where most people go wrong. They want to feel motivated before they start, but in truth, motivation often follows focus. If you can control your visual attention, you can shift your entire internal state. This principle applies across all disciplines. An athlete preparing to shoot, a student reading a textbook, an entrepreneur analyzing strategy, all of them are engaging their visual system to anchor their attention. But there's a deeper mechanism at work. When your gaze narrows, your brain shifts from a diffuse, open state to a highly concentrated one. This triggers the release of neurochemicals like acetylcholine, which enhance precision and alertness. This isn't just mental sharpness, it's biological. And this chemistry begins with the eyes. But it's not just about looking. It's about how you look. There's a difference between passive seeing and active focusing. When you scroll aimlessly or glance around without purpose, your brain remains in a scattered, unfocused state. But when you lock your vision intentionally onto something and hold it there, your mind organizes itself around that point. You move from distraction to determination, from passive observation to active intention. That shift is what drives results. This is why visual anchors are so powerful. Whether it's a written goal on your wall, a target on your screen, or even a symbol of your ambition, placing something in your environment that captures and holds your focus creates a neurological feedback loop. The more you look at it, the more your brain tunes into it. The more you tune into it, the more motivation you feel. This isn't magic. It's a direct connection between the visual system and the areas of the brain responsible for drive and pursuit, particularly the prefrontal cortex and the basal ganglia. When those areas are engaged, you don't just think about goals, you pursue them. On the flip side, your visual system can also calm you down. When you're stressed or overwhelmed, narrowing your focus tends to increase internal pressure. But when you relax your gaze, when you look out into the distance or take in your peripheral environment, you engage the parasympathetic nervous system, which promotes calmness and clarity. This is why taking a moment to step outside and gaze at a horizon or a tree line can immediately shift your mood. Your visual system is a dial. It can turn your alertness up or down, depending on how you use it. Understanding this gives you real power. It means you can take control of your state of mind through simple physical actions. Before starting a task, pause and narrow your visual focus on a single point. Let your body sync with your intention. Hold that gaze even briefly and allow the chemistry to change. When you feel scattered, lift your eyes. Take in the room, the sky, the world around you. Use your eyes to reset your nervous system. These are not just tricks. They are tools backed by science, grounded in how the human brain evolved to function in the real world. The modern environment bombards your vision with stimuli, most of it designed to hijack your focus. Social media, notifications, multiple screens, these fracture your visual attention, and with it, your cognitive control. The cost is high. Every time your eyes dart around aimlessly, your brain is pulled in different directions. You lose depth, you lose intention, you lose energy, but when you train yourself to regain control, to look with purpose, to hold focus, you begin to reclaim your power. Not just mentally, but biologically. Focus is not a talent, it's a skill, and it begins with vision. Train your eyes to commit to a target. Discipline your gaze. Protect it from the chaos. Let it become the foundation of your mental structure. Because the longer you can hold visual attention, the more deeply your brain engages, the more effectively your body prepares, and the more consistently you can access the zone where real growth happens. This is how leaders operate. This is how elite performers train. This is how anyone from any background can begin to unlock the next level of their ability. It doesn't start with emotion. It starts with control. And that control begins with where you choose to look. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, distracted, or unmotivated, don't wait for some magical inspiration to arrive. Instead, take control of your eyes. Choose your point of focus. Hold it. Let your brain and body align with that decision. And in doing so, realize that the path to your potential is not hidden. It's right in front of you. You just have to look at it long enough to activate everything inside you that was built to chase it. Your energy is not constant throughout the day. No matter how driven or disciplined you are, your brain and body operate in natural rhythms, waves of alertness, focus, and fatigue that rise and fall in predictable patterns. These rhythms are called ultradian cycles, and understanding them is one of the most powerful, yet overlooked, ways to unlock your true potential. The secret is not to fight your biology, but to work with it. And when you do, everything changes. Productivity becomes more efficient. Learning becomes deeper. Performance becomes more sustainable. It all starts with aligning your effort to the rhythms your body is already wired to follow. An ultradian cycle typically lasts about 90 to 120 minutes. During this period, your body moves through a phase of heightened alertness and mental clarity, followed by a natural dip in energy and focus. You've experienced this many times. Those moments where you feel sharp, dialed in, unstoppable, and then just as suddenly you feel tired, foggy, or distracted. That dip is not a failure of discipline. It's biology doing its job. Your brain can only maintain high levels of focus for a limited stretch before it requires rest. Ignoring this pattern leads to burnout. But learning to ride the wave of the ultradian cycle can turn you into a high-performance machine. When you begin a task, especially one that requires deep concentration, your nervous system ramps up. Heart rate increases slightly, cortisol rises just enough to support alertness, and your brain begins producing neurotransmitters like norepinephrine and acetylcholine that sharpen your attention. This is the first phase of the cycle, the performance window. In this window, which usually lasts between 60 and 90 minutes, your brain is primed to learn, solve problems, and execute with precision. This is the time for focused work, no distractions, no multitasking, just deep effort aligned with intention. But here's the critical part. Once this peak passes, the body naturally starts to downshift. The same chemicals that powered your focus begin to decline. The brain signals a need for recovery. This is the second phase of the ultradian rhythm, the rest phase. You may feel a drop in energy, an urge to check your phone, a desire to get up or zone out. Again, this isn't laziness. It's your biology signaling that you've hit the edge of your performance window. And if you ignore this signal, if you push through with caffeine, overstimulation, or brute force, you begin to degrade your cognitive performance. Mistakes increase, focus scatters, willpower declines. This is how people burn out, not because they don't work hard, but because they work against their own rhythms. The good news is you can train yourself to optimize these cycles. The first step is awareness. Start noticing your natural peaks and dips throughout the day. You'll likely find that you have 2 to 4 strong ultradian cycles per day where you're capable of doing your best work. Identify those windows and protect them. Structure your most demanding tasks, creative work, strategic thinking, intense study during those cycles. Turn off distractions, set a timer for 90 minutes, and go all in. Then, when the cycle ends, step away. Even a short break of 10 to 20 minutes can reset your system and prepare you for the next wave. This recovery phase is essential. During the rest period, your brain processes the information it just absorbed. It begins to consolidate learning, make connections, and restore neurotransmitter levels. This is not idle time, it's integration time. Go for a walk. Breathe deeply. Listen to calming music. Let your mind wander. Do something that allows your nervous system to shift into a more relaxed state. What feels like doing nothing is actually a hidden accelerator for growth and creativity. Many breakthroughs come not during the grind, but in the moments after it, when the mind has space to make sense of everything it just took in. This cycle of deep effort followed by deliberate rest is the formula for sustained peak performance. When you respect the boundaries of your biology, you extend your ability to perform over the long term. You avoid mental fatigue, emotional exhaustion, and the trap of diminishing returns. You become someone who can show up again and again with clarity and power, and the more you practice working with ultradian rhythms, the more naturally your body aligns with them. It becomes easier to drop into focus. Recovery becomes more effective. You become more intuitive with your timing, your energy, and your output. In today's world, this understanding gives you an edge. Most people try to outwork their biology. They try to be on all the time, grinding through fatigue, overloading their schedules, and mistaking constant activity for real productivity. But science tells a different story. True productivity is about cycles. It's about knowing when to push and when to pause, when to go deep and when to pull back. High performance isn't about being busy. It's about being in rhythm. This rhythm is not only physical, it's mental and emotional. Even your motivation follows these cycles. You may feel highly driven during a focus window and then question your goals during a dip. Don't make decisions from the trough. Make them from the peak. And when the dip comes, don't panic. Rest. Recover. Let the wave reset, then return. This is how you maintain momentum without breaking yourself. It's not soft, it's strategic. And it's how the top performers in the world operate, whether they realize it or not. So, if you're serious about unlocking your potential, stop trying to force your way through the day. Start listening. Observe your natural rhythms. Build your schedule around them. Create space for intensity followed by intentional recovery. Respect the 90-minute rule. Trust the dip. Protect your peak. And understand this simple truth. Your energy is not something you generate through willpower alone. It is something you manage through rhythm, focus, and recovery. You are not a machine meant to run endlessly. You are a system meant to pulse, to surge, to reset. And when you begin to live in harmony with your cycles, when you work with the wave instead of against it, you don't just get more done. You become more powerful, more creative, more balanced, and most importantly, more capable of becoming everything you were designed to be. We live in a world that celebrates effort, hustle, and long hours. We praise the grind, the all-nighters, the constant push to get ahead. But what if one of the most powerful ways to access your potential wasn't in doing more, but in learning how to rest more intelligently? The truth is, if you want to rewire your brain, if you want to grow, if you want to unlock new skills, deeper focus, and greater clarity, rest is not optional. It's essential, especially sleep. Because sleep is not the absence of productivity, it is the hidden engine behind all real transformation. At the center of this is a powerful biological process called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change itself. Every time you learn something new, practice a skill, or stretch your limits, your brain creates new connections between neurons. These connections form the basis of memory, learning, and adaptation. But here's the key: the actual formation and stabilization of these connections, the part where your brain wires in the growth, doesn't happen while you're practicing. It happens after you've stopped, and much of it happens during sleep. Without sufficient and quality rest, those fragile new neural pathways decay. You lose the learning. The practice doesn't stick. The transformation doesn't take root. In other words, effort without recovery is wasted effort. During sleep, especially deep sleep and a rapid eye movement REM sleep, your brain goes to work. It begins replaying the patterns you experienced during the day. If you practiced a skill, your brain runs that pattern again. If you studied, it begins consolidating that knowledge. It selectively strengthens the most important connections, trims away the less important ones, and organizes your memory so that it can be recalled more effectively. This is not just a passive process, it's one of the most energy-intensive tasks your brain performs. In fact, during certain phases of sleep, your brain can be just as active as it is during peak waking performance. You are literally rewiring yourself while you sleep. This process is also closely linked to emotional resilience. During REM sleep, your brain processes emotional experiences, especially stressful or intense ones. It helps you integrate difficult moments, gain perspective, and regulate your mood. This is why sleep-deprived people are more anxious, more reactive, and less capable of handling challenges. Without rest, the brain's emotional circuits remain overloaded. But when you sleep well, you not only recover physically, you return to the world more stable, more calm, and more mentally sharp. Another critical component of rest is the non-sleep deep rest state, often referred to as NSDR. This includes practices like meditation, yoga nidra, or even short intentional periods of eyes closed rest without sleep. These states allow the nervous system to down-regulate, the mind to reset, and the body to begin cellular repair. While they don't replace sleep, they can support and enhance recovery, especially during the day. They help restore dopamine levels, clear mental fog, and increase your capacity to re-enter focused work. Even 10 to 20 minutes of NSDR can make a significant difference in your performance and brain health. The relationship between rest and potential is also tied to a broader concept: brain plasticity requires contrast. Just like muscles grow through the alternation of tension and release, your mind grows through the alternation of challenge and recovery. It's in the contrast that the signal is recognized. If you're always on, always pushing, always consuming, your brain never gets the opportunity to reflect, integrate, and evolve. But when you deliberately step back, when you allow space, your brain begins to make sense of everything you've fed it. It begins to connect dots, create insights, and generate innovation. This is also why many people find that their best ideas come not when they're sitting at a desk, but when they're in the shower, walking, resting, or just waking up. During these restful periods, the brain's default mode network becomes active. This network is responsible for imagination, creativity, and self-reflection. It helps you make meaning out of experiences and link together seemingly unrelated concepts. But it can only function when the task-focused parts of the brain are quiet. So, if you want breakthroughs, if you want to tap into the higher capacities of your mind, you must make room for stillness. You must give yourself the silence that allows insight to emerge. Many high performers understand this at a deep level. They don't rest because they're lazy. They rest because they know it's the fastest path to sustainable growth. They guard their sleep. They schedule time for recovery. They practice NSDR deliberately. They take naps when needed, not as an escape, but as an optimization. They build rest into their rhythm so they can show up sharper, more creative, and more adaptable. This is not weakness. This is mastery. If you've been stuck in the mindset that rest is a reward for work, it's time to reverse that thinking. Rest is not something you earn after you work hard. Rest is what allows the hard work to matter. It's what locks in the gains. It's what prepares you to rise again, stronger and wiser. If you are constantly grinding without recovery, you are not growing, you are decaying. You may be moving, but you are not evolving. You are burning the fuel without rebuilding the engine. Start small. Prioritize your sleep. Aim for consistency over perfection. Go to bed and wake up at the same time. Protect your sleep environment, cool, dark, quiet. Avoid stimulants and screens late at night. Practice deep breathing or NSDR before sleep to calm the nervous system. During the day, allow for short moments of stillness, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, to close your eyes and reset. These small acts have a cumulative impact. Over time, they build a foundation of cognitive and emotional resilience that becomes unshakable. Your potential is not just in what you can do when you're awake. It's in how well you recover when you're not. Every night, your brain gives you a chance to renew, to reorganize, to rise again. Don't waste it. Lean into it. Learn to value it. Because the quiet hours, the ones where nothing seems to be happening, are the very hours where everything is actually changing. And if you can learn to rest with purpose, you can wake up with power. Every single time. Your brain is not just a machine for reacting to the world. It's also a powerful simulator. It has the unique ability to create experiences internally that mirror real life situations. And when you use this ability deliberately, especially through goal visualization, you gain access to one of the most powerful tools for rewiring your mind and unlocking your potential. Visualization is not just about seeing the end result. It's about activating neural circuits, focusing attention, and priming your physiology for action. It's not wishful thinking. It's neurotraining. And it works because your brain often doesn't differentiate between what is imagined with deep focus and what is experienced in the real world. When you visualize a specific goal clearly, repeatedly, and with emotional intensity, you begin to form a mental map. This map orients your attention toward what matters. It activates regions of the brain such as the prefrontal cortex and the basal ganglia, which are deeply involved in decision, making, and goal-directed behavior. Your brain starts filtering reality differently. It begins noticing opportunities that align with the goal. It sharpens focus, reduces mental noise, and triggers the release of dopamine, a chemical that fuels motivation and drive. In this way, visualization acts like a spotlight in the mind, illuminating the path forward and strengthening your resolve to walk it. But to truly harness this power, you must go beyond vague affirmations or passive daydreaming. Real visualization involves precision. It involves mentally rehearsing specific actions, challenges, and outcomes in rich sensory detail. If your goal is to speak on stage, don't just imagine yourself holding a trophy. Imagine the lights on your face, the sound of your voice echoing in the room, the butterflies in your stomach before you step up. Visualize yourself handling nerves, delivering your message, and connecting with the audience. Make it real in your mind. This level of mental rehearsal strengthens neural pathways almost as effectively as physical practice. That's why elite athletes, performers, and leaders use it, not to fantasize, but to train. One of the most critical elements of effective visualization is that it includes obstacles. This may seem counterintuitive. Why would you visualize things going wrong? Because this trains resilience. If you only imagine success, your brain is unprepared for the realities of the process. But when you mentally anticipate struggle, fatigue, distraction, fear, you teach your nervous system how to respond in advance. You build emotional tolerance. You condition grit. You mentally rehearse how you will overcome, how you will stay composed, how you will recenter and press on. So don't just visualize the win, visualize the path to it with all its challenges. That's where the real growth happens. Another benefit of visualization is that it influences your identity. Repeated mental rehearsal of you performing at your best sends a message to your subconscious. This is who I am becoming. And your actions begin to align with that identity. If you see yourself as focused, resilient, and capable, your behavior starts reflecting those traits. Visualization becomes a bridge between belief and behavior. It builds inner congruence, which is essential for consistent effort. When your self-image matches your goal, your internal resistance fades. You stop doubting, you start executing. The brain's reticular activating system, RAS, plays a key role here. This network acts like a filter, determining what information gets through to your conscious mind. When you repeatedly visualize a goal, your RAS begins scanning the environment for anything related to that goal. You start noticing books, people, opportunities, and ideas that support your mission, things you might have ignored before. In this way, visualization changes not just how you think, but what you see. And when you see differently, you act differently. This is how vision shapes reality. But for visualization to be effective, it must become a habit. Consistency is key. Even just 5 to 10 minutes a day of focused mental rehearsal can rewire your brain over time. The best time to do this is either in the morning after waking or in the evening before sleep, when your brain is most receptive to suggestion and your nervous system is calmer. Begin by closing your eyes, breathing deeply, and calming your body. Then bring your goal to mind, not just the outcome, but the process. Picture it clearly. Feel it emotionally. See yourself showing up fully, handling setbacks, staying disciplined. Let that image settle into your nervous system. You can also combine visualization with journaling or spoken affirmations to deepen the imprint. Writing or saying out loud what you are visualizing can engage different neural pathways and reinforce the message. The more senses you involve, the stronger the effect. Over time, this practice becomes an internal anchor, a source of clarity and confidence, especially when external circumstances are uncertain. It reminds you of your why, your path, and your power. One common mistake is to think that visualization replaces action. It doesn't. It prepares you for action. It's the mental warm-up, the neural rehearsal, the inner alignment. But it must be followed by behavior. You visualize to guide your steps, not to avoid taking them. When used properly, visualization creates a feedback loop. You act, then you visualize again, then you act again, each time with more precision, more belief, and more momentum. This is how small wins compound. This is how big dreams are made real. So if you're seeking to tap into your potential, if you want to access deeper levels of focus, drive, and performance, start by asking yourself, what am I repeatedly picturing in my mind? Is it fear? Is it failure? Is it doubt? Or is it purpose, process, and strength? You must become the director of your inner movie. You must take control of the images you run, the stories you tell, and the emotions you attach to them, because your brain will follow whatever picture you feed it, and your life will begin to reflect it. Visualize not just the destination, but the journey. Feel the effort. See the sweat. Hear the doubts and choose to move anyway. That is how you train your nervous system for greatness. That is how you build internal certainty. No matter what chaos surrounds you, you don't wait for belief, you create it. You don't hope for power, you practice it in your mind before the world ever sees it. Train your brain to see what you want to create. Practice seeing yourself rise. Then act accordingly. And over time, the gap between vision and reality begins to close. You become what you see, not all at once, but inevitably. That's the power of visualization. That's how you access potential that was always waiting for you, just beyond the edge of your current belief. In a world driven by quick results and instant gratification, most people run from effort. They avoid it, resent it, and try to find shortcuts around it. But what if effort wasn't something to dread? What if effort in itself could become the source of fulfillment, purpose, and even joy? The truth is, if you want to access your full potential, you must retrain your brain to lean into effort, not tolerate it, not survive it, but actually crave, because you understand that effort is the path, not the obstacle. It is not a punishment. It is the very mechanism through which transformation happens. Your brain is wired for efficiency. It tries to conserve energy, avoid discomfort, and seek rewards. This is a survival mechanism built into your nervous system. But when you deliberately introduce challenge and teach your brain that effort leads to positive outcomes, not just external ones, but internal ones, you change your relationship to the work itself. You activate a powerful internal reward system that releases dopamine, not just when you succeed, but while you are in the process of striving. That's the shift that high performers understand. They don't wait until the finish line to feel proud. They feel a sense of meaning in the struggle. They have trained their brains to find reward in the climb. This is not just psychological, it's biological. The brain has the capacity to rewire its reward circuitry. Normally, we associate dopamine with achieving a goal, hitting a target, winning a prize, receiving praise. But dopamine can also be triggered by progress when we begin to link effort to meaning. That's a critical insight. When you focus not only on the outcome, but on the intensity, presence, and growth that comes from the work itself, you start reinforcing new neural pathways. These pathways associate challenge with purpose. With each repetition, this association grows stronger. Over time, you stop fearing effort and begin to seek it, not because it's easy, but because it's honest. Effort reveals you to yourself. It strips away illusion. It's in the sweat, the strain, the push beyond what's comfortable that your identity is reshaped. In those moments, you learn what you're really made of. You're not just performing a task, you're forging character. And when the brain begins to recognize that truth, it shifts its focus. It stops asking, how do I avoid discomfort? And starts asking, how can I grow through this? That is the mindset of someone who's truly tapped into their potential. They don't rely on motivation. They rely on trained desire for effort. They've taught themselves to love the work more than the reward. One of the keys to building this mindset is understanding that effort is a signal. It tells your brain, this is where growth is happening. When something feels hard, when your mind resists, when your body wants to quit, that's the precise moment your nervous system is being rewired. But most people stop right there. They interpret that signal as a reason to quit. But those who unlock greatness learn to reframe that signal. They say, this is where I need to lean in. And when they do, something remarkable happens. The brain begins to release small pulses of dopamine for the effort itself. These are not fireworks of pleasure, but steady signals that say, keep going. This matters. It's important to note that this doesn't happen by accident. It takes conscious, repeated training. At first, you might hate the discomfort. You might resent the grind. But each time you choose to lean in, each time you acknowledge the effort as meaningful, you are reinforcing a powerful loop: effort, meaning, get reward, repeat. Over time, this loop becomes automatic. Your baseline for what you can handle increases. What used to feel overwhelming now feels manageable, and your confidence grows not because everything is easy, but because you've proven to yourself that you can meet difficulty with strength. This is also how you build intrinsic motivation. External rewards, money, recognition, praise, can drive behavior, but they are inconsistent and often outside your control. Internal rewards, on the other hand, are always available. You don't have to wait for someone else to validate your progress. You feel good because you showed up. You feel proud because you stayed in the game when you wanted to quit. You generate motivation from within. That's freedom. That's power. Another advantage of training your brain to lean into effort is that it creates resilience. Life is unpredictable. Circumstances change, challenges arise. But if your nervous system is trained to see effort as opportunity rather than threat, you become unshakable. Instead of shrinking from stress, you expand into it. You don't run from the storm. You walk straight through it with your head high. This doesn't mean you enjoy suffering. It means you've learned that growth is worth the discomfort. It means you trust yourself to adapt. To build this mindset, start small. Pick something challenging but manageable, something you tend to avoid. Approach it with full presence. Tell yourself, this is where I grow. Focus on the process. Celebrate the act of showing up, not just the result. Notice the resistance and lean in anyway. With repetition, you'll start to notice the shift. The thing you used to dread becomes a signal that you're getting stronger. The friction becomes a friend. You can also reinforce this mindset with language. The words you say to yourself during effort shape your brain's response to it. If you say, this is too hard, your brain looks for ways to shut down. But if you say, this is what growth feels like, your brain begins to release reward signals. Self-talk isn't just mental, it's chemical. Choose your words wisely. Speak strength into your struggle. Over time, effort becomes part of your identity. You stop needing to feel ready before you act. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You start moving because effort itself becomes energizing. And ironically, when you begin to enjoy effort, success comes faster. Not because you chased it, but because you built the habits that attract it. You did the work others avoided. You became the kind of person who doesn't quit. That consistency compounds. That mindset compounds. And one day you look around and realize you've become someone different, someone stronger, someone unstoppable. That is the power of effort, not just as a tool, but as a teacher, as a mirror, as a reward. If you can learn to embrace it, lean into it, and love it, you won't just achieve more. You'll become more. You'll unlock levels of potential you never knew existed, not by finding an easier path, but by choosing the harder one again and again until it becomes your nature. That's the secret. That's the work. And that's where greatness begins.